So the Philadelphia Eagles have added multiple players to their practice squad. They have also lost a couple of players who did not crack the initial 53-man roster to a couple of teams via the NFL waiver wire, and a former tight end has signed with the division rivals practice squad. That's all coming your way on today's Eagles Now. Before we take a look at all this, though, make sure you subscribe to the channel and check out these numbers here to my right. We're 849 people away from 50,000 subscribers. And when we get there, you already know how we get down. We're celebrating that milestone right here on the program. So if you're looking for daily Eagles updates and the best coverage that you can find covering this team daily, we have you covered here on Eagles Now. Lock us in and hit that subscribe button. So Philadelphia losing 2 players via the NFL waiver wire. These are players who the Eagles did not keep on their initial 53-man roster. And they could have brought these players back if they passed through waivers. But Kyron Wallace and Josh Sills did not go through waivers. Instead, they get claimed by the Arizona Cardinals and the Indianapolis Colts. The story here for both of these players, they're going to 2 former coordinators for Philadelphia's team last year. Jonathan Gannon is now the head coach of Arizona, so Kyron Wallace gets to reunite with this former defensive coordinator who was with Philadelphia the last 2 years, hired alongside Nick Sirianni when Sirianni took the job, coming to the city of brotherly love from the Indianapolis Colts. And speaking of those aforementioned Colts, Shane Steichen, former Eagles offensive coordinator, now running the show for Indianapolis, claimed offensive lineman Josh Sills, who can be a backup, maybe even a starter for that team that needs offensive line help on the interior of that Colts offensive line to provide protection for Anthony Richardson. As for Tyree Jackson, he is that former Eagles tight end, signing with a division rival. He is going to the Giants practice squad. And after Philadelphia traded for Albert Okwuegbunam yesterday, and they brought back Brady Russell to the practice squad, more on him in a minute, that allowed Tyree Jackson to go somewhere else. And I honestly really like this for Jackson because Darren Waller is their tight end. He's a freak athlete. Tyree Jackson is a freak athlete. And the implementation potentially of Jackson as far as that Giants offensive system goes, I think that he's a pretty good scheme fit. So good for Tyree Jackson. Maybe he has an opportunity down the road to contribute to the New York Giants. Hopefully, though, it's not against Philadelphia. As for Wallace, he gets to follow Gannon here. And the Eagles, with Terrell Edmunds and Sidney Brown, have 2 safeties who like to play in the box. Kyron Wallace prefers to play in the box. At least that's his strong suit. So by going to Arizona, I think that Jonathan Gannon is going to be able to use him a little bit more there. Philadelphia may have had an opportunity for Wallace to play on the special teams unit, but now with the team that's going to be bad, and I mean bad in 2023, maybe Wallace gets to carve out a role defensively for the Cardinals. And then Sills and Steichen, he goes to a Colts team with this former offensive coordinator that definitely needs some help along the offensive line. Quentin Nelson is at left guard, highest paid interior offensive lineman in the NFL. Outside of that, though, a lot of question marks up front for Indianapolis. As for an Eagles practice squad update, we're going to go through all of the names that have been added to the taxi squad as of right now. All teams in the NFL have 16 available spots on the P squad. Players can be elevated to the active roster for game day. For instance, the Eagles right now don't have a 5th wide receiver. They don't have a designated return man, and they don't have a punter. But on game day, obviously, they're going to need that punter to get elevated or a return man to get elevated. That can happen. And for the Eagles practice squad, 6 signings so far. And all of these names, familiar names. These are all players who partook in training camp with Philadelphia. Offensive lineman Julian Good-Jones, Kyron Johnson, the linebacker, tight end Brady Russell, wide receiver Greg Ward, wide receiver Devon Allen, and wide receiver Britain Covey. That opens up 10 more opportunities for the Eagles to add to that practice squad. For Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni, they mentioned this number a couple of times during their press conference yesterday. 69 is the number that Howie Roseman was referring to. Very nice, how much? But in referring to that number 69 number, I hope some of you laughed, or some of you might think that I'm just not that funny. It's all good. Howie Roseman refers to the 53-man roster and the practice squad being 16 players, combining to give Philadelphia a 69-man team. So Howie Roseman said that multiple times yesterday during his press conference. He's like, we don't look at it as just the 53. We look at the 16 on the practice squad as a part of the 53, and we have one 69-man roster because those players are going to have opportunities to get elevated on game days and in turn earn some snaps. I have some thoughts about these practice squad players here just around the corner. First, though, week 1 odds. Let's take a look at those thanks to our sportsbook partner BetUS for this opening game against New England Patriots. Is this a fishy line to you? Philadelphia, 3.5-point road favorites. The over-under at 45. It's a little bit fishy to me, and let me tell you why. The Eagles are a much more talented team than the New England Patriots. I understand it's a road game, and Tom Brady is getting honored by New England, but just 3.5 here, that tells me the odds makers think that New England can potentially pull off the upset. The over-under, pretty solid number as far as scoring goes at 45 because Bill Belichick has a really good defense. Eagles have a really good offense. What is going to give? If you want to bet on this game or bet on any NFL games, shoot, me and a couple of the homies here at Chat Sports, we're flying to Charlotte this weekend. We're going to check out UNC against South Carolina, and we're already putting our bets down for that game as we have a great quarterback matchup. We have Spencer Rattler, and we have Drake May. It's going to be awesome. So I'm going to bet on that game thanks to our sportsbook partner, BetUS, chatsports.com/EaglesBet. You plug in that link, and then you plug in this promo code, Eagles125. That gives you a 125% deposit bonus. You put in $100, you get $125 back. I failed elementary algebra at Temple University, but I can do that simple math. That is $225 to game with this upcoming NFL season if you use that link in that promo code. There you go. We have you hooked up here at Chat Sports. So as far as Julian Good-Jones goes, the Eagles don't currently have a backup center on the roster. A backup center because Cam Jurgens is going to be the starting right guard. So for Julian Good-Jones, he gives you that backup center for this football team who can also slide over and play guard as well. Kyron Johnson gives you some linebacker depth at a position where you kind of need it. As far as inside and off-ball linebackers go for Philadelphia, they only have 3 on the opening 53. Covey Dean, Christian Ellis, Zach Cunningham. I think it's going to be Cunningham and Dean as the 2 starters for this football team. So Johnson fortifies that position group a little bit. Brady Russell had a really good training camp. I think he moves really well. There's just a logjam at tight end for him to make the initial 53, especially after that Albert Okwuegbunam trade. The more that I went back and watched Albert O, I covered him in high school. I know him well, shot him a DM. He showed some love back. Howie Roseman, with what he had to say about Albert Okwuegbunam, he's like, this guy is 6'5", 260 pounds. He's a 4.4 40-yard dash guy, which I talked about yesterday. But he has great athleticism, soft hands, quick feet, really good balance, and really good bend is the thing that Howie Roseman was talking about. The way that he moves at that size, I'm really excited for him to be a receiving threat on the field with Dallas Goedert, lining up in the slot. As a blocker, he's not great. As a pass catcher, he pops because he certainly is gifted there. Greg Ward knows the offense. He's been with this team since officially, 2017, 2018. When I was at Temple University, he was playing quarterback at Houston. He carved the Owls up at Lincoln Financial Field. Makes the switch to wide receiver. Had that really good final month in, 2019 down the stretch when Carson Wentz was playing. He was like the Eagles' #1 wide receiver. Since then, backup wide out, always serviceable, always making sure-handed grabs, can contribute on special teams. So knows the offense, can serve as a wide receiver 5 for this team, and can be a return man. Devon Allen. I want to see Devon Allen's continued development. We know that he has the Olympic track speed. We especially saw that with the opening 73-yard kickoff return in the preseason finale against the Indianapolis Colts. Britain Covey hasn't been able to have a return like that, which Devon Allen had, where he started toward the left side of the field at the 15 and then turned the corner using that speed to get out to the perimeter to really flip the field and set up an easy score for Trey Sermon. So this being his second year back to playing football after pursuing his track career, I thought he looked a little bit more comfortable as a player this camp. Missed a lot of camp because of a soft tissue injury that he suffered while doing his track stuff. But I like him coming back to the practice squad. He's kind of a game changer with that speed element. Britain Covey, Eagles clearly like him, and he was sure-handed last year. Rarely, if at all, fumbled a punt away, and he played in the Super Bowl just a few months ago. Didn't really have an explosive outing during his rookie campaign as a returner, but a solid back end of the season with a couple of solid returns. They can elevate him 2 times to the active roster this year as solely the punt returner. But obviously, familiarity, special teams, improved as a wide receiver at least a little bit, hopefully added a little bit more bulk because sometimes he got thrown around like a rag doll last year. If you made it this far in the show, that means that you're a real one. Give me a real one, Real John, down in the chat. Go Birds, because you know that's the movement. Don't forget to subscribe. And we're going live tomorrow on Eagles Now. You don't want to miss it.